Good evening, good evening, everyone. It's your girl Tammi B, aka That's a Woman. And we are here tonight, and I am proud and just happy, glad that you all are here. And my guest that's in the studio with me tonight. And also, I am just so thankful for my co-host, Miss Cola E. the Great. Hey, Cola.
Hello, hello everyone.
And Cola, what you got for the people tonight? I know tonight is a special night. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a heads up. Cola probably won't be with us all night tonight because today is hubby's birthday. And not only that, Cola, didn't y'all get married on his birthday?
No, a couple of days before.
Before. So it was the 16th?
It was the 9 days before the ninth.
The
Yeah.
ninth. Okay. So yes, and for I will also add, I am the one who had the luxury of performing their wedding ceremony. Yes, that was performed by yours truly. So yes, get out and enjoy hubby's birthday. And I see my man Shelly has joined. Hey Shelly.
How you doing?
Good. How
Sorry
are
I'm late.
you? It's okay.
good.
I am always grateful for you to be here. Know that you were missed last week, Shelly.
Thank you. Somebody missed me.
Shelly,
Yeah.
listen, you know, RT, aka Real Talk, ain't Real Talk without Shelly, because Shelly be dropping some
Okay.
stuff. So yeah, we want to hear what Shelly have to say. So
I'll
welcome
take
back.
the flattery today. I'll take it. Thank you.
It's not
I have to,
You're the only male representative.
okay, well, there went my little 15 minutes of fame. Thanks, Cola.
And what you got good for the people, Shelly? Why you getting
Oh,
situated
man.
over there?
Yeah, I had to come. I brought my kids to New York to hang out here for Christmas. So we in the room. I'm trying to get it together. And,
You're so
yeah.
awesome. Thank you.
Am
You
I?
for the support.
I'm just a man. I'm just a man.
But you know what, Shelly? That's it. People are not told their value enough. And that's one of the things that I like doing because you're valuable to me and the work that I'm doing on this platform.
Thank
So I
you.
just want to publicly say that. And I appreciate
Thank
you in New York. This would have been a time, deuces, girl. I am out. I
I
will
know. I missed last week, so I couldn't do it twice.
Oh,
Let me get.
you sweet. You're such a sweetheart. So, and last but not least, I have my girl, Sierra. Sierra, say hi before I read your bio.
Hello, good evening. Excited to be here.
We are excited to have you. So let me tell you the little accolades about my girl, Sierra. So from the name on the screen, Sierra Keaton is a cannabis nurse consultant, an educator, a mentor, speaker, and author who shares an unprecedented love for serving the people, something we have in common. She is a native of the Show Me State, St. Louis, Missouri. Sierra has been serving in the healthcare industry as a registered nurse for the last 16 years and has been in love with the cannabis plant for over 10 years, which, if it's okay to say, Cola is a RN as well. So I have two in the industry. Oh, this is gonna be some good talk before Cola have to leave us. So she is the woman behind Keaton Consulting, a corporation focused on education and consulting to bring holistic approaches to healthcare and make medicinal cannabis treatments a reality for clients. Sierra is the founder of Balance Relief, a CBD and cannabinoid wellness store focused on providing special formulations using the power of the cannabinoids and the terpenes to design custom products. She is also the owner of a relief, which is one of the first of its kind. It is the first Black-owned medical spa in Georgia that focuses on CBD based therapies and has their own brand of CBD products. They bring the power of the plant and the medical spa industry to life. Welcome, Sierra.
Make it sound all fancy on paper.
But look, to those of us,
the weed nurse, they just call me the weed nurse, but it sounds great on paper.
Did you say the weed nurse?
That's what they call me.
I love it. I love it. But listen, that's why I want to have the conversation, because there are many that when you hear CBD, that's all they think of is weed, right? We don't think of weed, of anything other than. So, but before we dive in it, I like to do a little icebreaker. I like to ask a little question. So this week, I'm going to ask you, what's the best thing you've ever crossed off your bucket list?
That's a good question. And that's going to be a little personal, but one of the best things that I crossed off of my bucket list was after leaving my marriage, just going through my healing process and launching my businesses while I did it, and just seeing my strength in that alone. If I never accomplished anything else,
that's wonderful.
I was getting ready to say that is so powerful. Yeah, like we applaud you on that. That is
a divorce, but if you weren't in a good situation, yeah, and it couldn't be worked out, that takes a lot of strength and courage. Yeah.
I look back and I'm like, I did that, But
and not only that, but what I love about what you just said, you didn't succumb to the divorce. You used it as a stepping stone to elevate, to level up. You know what I'm saying? So that's powerful in itself, because sometimes people, people have the woe is me. But you say that again, Cola?
Or they'll get stuck.
I was just gonna say they get stuck in that.
Yes. And you used it. So if you don't mind me asking, was yours a journey where you started your healing before you exited?
Oh, definitely. I am a God's girl. So unfortunately, I was sitting there in the midst of all the stuff, and I'm like, this ain't even about this man. This is about the covenant I made with God. And so I have to honor that.
Yeah.
So I went through a process of, marriage counseling by myself for a period even before exiting. So it was definitely a journey. God guided me through that journey, downloaded things into me, and he let me know that journey was coming to an end anyhow. And that gave me comfort in being able to move forward, even though I didn't want to, but.
Definitely. I love it. I love it. And that's what God does, right? God takes care of his children. He gives them that exit. Like sometimes we stay in situations longer than we're supposed to because we're not listening. We're not, God, like I'm giving you the warning signs, but you holding on. So when you ready, and it really came down to you having to be ready.
Mm-hmm. You have to get up and walk away. I'm not going to take it away.
Come on. That's exactly what he says. He says so Carla, I'm sorry, Sierra.
Yes.
Tell me in the audience, what's the difference between CBD and THC?
There are a lot of differences between the two. There are a lot of similarities between the two. What I like to reiterate is that there is so much more to the cannabis plant besides THC and CBD. Those are the only two parts that we kind of know about or you hear about. The beautiful thing is that there's over 140 properties of this cannabis plant. We've only just, we've only kind of researched and dug our hands into about 10 to 12 different properties. I would say those main properties. So THC is one and CBD is one, right? The main difference between the two is that CBD does not give you the euphoric effect that THC does. And those are the main things. So, you have that high or whatever from THC. And that is caused because our cells overreact. But CBD doesn't give that, but they have a lot of very similar medicinal properties in it.
Okay, I love that because like you just said earlier when you say I'm just a weed nurse, right? That's all I think of. I had always just been taught, hey, weed, it calms you down, it mellows you out, and but of course, regardless of how calm and how medical, how good it make you feel, it show up on the drug test. You are not getting the job, or you gonna lose your job,
right?
But so I did some research and I wanted to kind of talk about some of the benefits. So I'm seeing here that like it helps with anxiety, pain management, epilepsy, and reducing inflammation. Can you talk to some of those benefits that CBD gives the people?
So let me speak to it first. I don't know if y'all can read my shirt, but it says I got 99 problems and CBD can help me with 97 and a half of them. And I don't say that lightly. Now, it doesn't mean that it comes in and heals everything and just solves, but it really gives a domino effect for your wellness. And the reason that it does that is because it puts our bodies back in balance. CBD can help with many things, and our bodies are already programmed to accept it. That's why I can give one person CBD who has seizures, one person CBD who has migraines, one person CBD who has lupus, one person CBD who has chronic pain. And I don't say, oh, this is chronic pain CBD, this is lupus CBD, this is this type of CBD. And the body knows exactly what to do with it and where to send it to. So to speak on those things, the reason that CBD is huge in the pain industry is because of its anti-inflammatory properties. That is superpower. So all of these parts of the plants, they all have similar powers, but I always say that each one has their own superpower. And CBD superpower is anti-inflammatory. So that's why it works very well with arthritis. That's why it works very well in the pain management realm, because a lot of our pain is because of inflammatory processes. It works well with epilepsies and seizures because of our endocannabinoid system and regulatory system that people don't even know. You have a system in your body that regulates cannabinoids. Okay. This is why it works well in that realm. It works well in inflammatory disease processes, such as irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, lupus. I use it for a magnitude of different disorders. So again, I can speak to just about anything. I've written several articles. It was funny. I was a part of this magazine where every month we had different themes that we had to write articles on. And I just realized how amazing the cannabis plant was, because while others, would change up, their articles for every month, all I had to do was take that topic and apply to CBD. Like, oh, we're talking about Alzheimer's this month. Oh, let me tell you how CBD helps with Alzheimer's, right? And getting them back in balance and stopping the process for Alzheimer's and dementia. Oh, we're talking about cancer this month. Let me show you the properties of the plant that help eliminate and reduce cancer cells. Let me show you these studies. Oh, we're talking about autism this month. Let me show you the amazing properties of how CBD helps sensory defects for autism. So there is so much to this plant, and people just don't understand it. And when you go to research, you're going to find the negative things of cannabis. And we can speak to that later. And that's because of the hidden agenda behind it.
Wow. So if I'm understanding you correctly, you are saying there is just one plant, but it has different parts, or there are multiple plants. Talk to me.
So let me keep it real for you for a minute. So it's so funny. There's the hemp plant, right? You hear
Okay.
about, and then you have this thing called the marijuana plant, right? They're like cousins. They like brothers, right? And this plant over here is legal. This plant over here is illegal. They produce many of the same properties. The difference in the growing of them is that the hemp plant has to test and yield a certain percentage of THC in it. So hemp plants have to have less than 0.3% THC to be classified as hemp. Anything higher than that, they're classified as marijuana.
Okay. Shelly, Cola, y'all want to chime in?
I'm listening. You know, I'm from Colorado, so we started that. Me and my cousins, we owned a dispensary in Colorado, and like I grew for them a lot. So I'm just listening, and she's 100% correct. Yeah. So I'm just waiting to chime in later. She's touched everything, so she knows her stuff. Let me say that.
Oh yeah.
And just to add, y'all know the Bibles are made out of hemp. The pages of the Bibles are hemp.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
The pages of the Bible are hemp. Hemp was the main agriculture back in Jesus' days.
Yes. So, I'm glad that you brought that up. So that brings me to another point and why disease processes and diseases have grown so much. Hemp was readily available, and so it was a part of our ecosystem. The cows ate the hemp. It was processed through the farm. Everything, it was in our system, and they've taken that aspect out. And this is why, this is my theory. This is why we have more diseases now. This is why we have more issues with cancer, more instances, because they've taken what balanced our body and put it back in regulatory, in a regulatory state is gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the hemp plant can be used 300 different ways. Over 300. I have a friend who has a construction company in Illinois, and they use hempcrete.
Okay, so I'm sorry. You guys
We
just
have
like
to Tammi for a loop.
But no, I love this. Listen, I love acquiring knowledge, and this right here. So to hear the Bible was made out of hemp. This is something that used to be in our bodies. This is something that they know will do us good, but yet with the hidden agenda theory, hypothetically, it's like I find myself wondering, why is it they are so mean and cruel when they have access to things that will do us good?
I'm gonna
Go ahead. You go first, and then I will
I'm
follow.
gonna tell you why that is. The government cannot copyright anything made by nature, so they can't make money off of it. So they have to take nature away from us, and they make it pharmaceutically or processed in the medicine, so they can make a profit. Yeah.
So, and I don't know if this relates or don't relate. So, like Dr. Sebi, though a lot of people know of Dr. Sebi, like there's a cure for everything: cancer, AIDS, this, that, and the other. And it's theorized that Dr. Sebi was killed because they didn't want the knowledge that he was sharing out. Although people, years later have come behind and they, doing their research and, they're trying to emulate the work that he was doing. So is it, possible, he was tapping into some of the stuff possible. We don't know for sure, but tapping into some of the stuff that you all are talking about.
Most definitely. I know a few Black physicians who are in the same realm, and they talk about their safety. The pharmaceutical industry is a $1 billion industry. Okay. And if we teach people how to live and be well, then they won't make any money.
Right. Yeah, and everything nature cures. So Dr. CB was showing us the nature's way. And I'm gonna show you the extent to what they go through, because just, fruits and vegetables are cures themselves. You know that here in Georgia, 78% of the trees are male. They don't allow female trees to grow because they bear fruit, and they want everything bought through them. And so, yeah, that's why you don't ever see like fruit on the ground or fruit trees no more, because they take it all away. And that's why they try so hard to regulate her industry, is because they know the power of it.
Yeah. And they just passed new regulations in Georgia, which probably will have me exiting at some point. But they just put new regulations on the hemp industry here. Now you have to apply for all these wholesale and distributor licenses and retail licenses. They banned all smokable hemp here, and they want to ran under the pharmaceutical industry. That's where the dispensaries are ran through the pharmacy.
And that's what they did in Colorado. They they used our formula as like for the rest of the system. So what they do is they take the like her, and they cause us to do license, and they triple the price of the license. Like when we started our dispensary in Colorado, dispensary license was only $12,000. And we went to Oklahoma. Oklahoma is only $7,000.
Yep.
Once the government got a hold of the process, license now is $250,000.
Yeah. California's regulations. That's why I ran from there, because, I was in California at first. And Northern California, Southern California were like night and day when it came to the cannabis industry. Northern California somewhat had it together. The South was unregulated, gray. And I actually had a license to run a dispensary, and I never opened it because of my fear. They could come for my license at any given moment because there was no regulation. You could open up a dispensary, they could just come in and shut it down, and there was nothing you could do about it.
Wow.
All this gray area. Now California has dipped into the hemp industry, where the hemp industry is now regulated under marijuana industry. So same laws, same things. They are coming for this industry.
Wow. Well, listen, somebody put in the chat, and I want to acknowledge it. They said the U.S. is a corporation and not a country. Therefore, all, they put in caps, all is about profits. They don't care about us.
Right. That's a fact. That's why we go under commercial code. And that's a fact.
That's why our healthcare system is the way it is.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mess.
Yeah. So she's definitely doing a great thing. And I think it seems to me like they keep knowledge about just CBD. Like it's not advertised as much or none of that, because I think they can't regulate it all the way yet, because it's not. It takes the THC to become a drug, and CBD doesn't turn into THC until it's cooked over 300 degrees. So they can't. There's nothing they could do about it. So I think, like you say, they're going to find a way to regulate it where the government regulates it or taxes it. So yeah.
And they hushed us on the other end because with marketing, with aspects, I can't say this, I can't say that, you can't advertise here, you can't do this.
Wow. That's concerning.
You can't have banking, you can't do this, you can't do that.
So CBD is a cash business here?
No, I actually have a payment processor.
Okay.
But I've been in the industry for a while, so I had to learn which ones. I remember I set up a whole marketing funnel and everything on this back thing. And mind you, I was only doing education. This wasn't even for my product business. I woke up to them for email. They shut down everything. That's not allowed on this platform. Yeah, payment processing would take your money. PayPal was taking people's money and holding it when they found out they were in the cannabis industry. It used to be real wild out here.
What they did is still illegal federally on a federal level, and so since the banks are FDCI insured, the feds were threatening to take their money if they accepted the cannabis money and the hemp money.
Yeah. Eventually, I had to apply. In the beginning, I had to apply through Square. Used to have a hemp program for payment processing, and I finally was able to use that under regulation. And I knew things were changing on the back end because Square actually has their own bank.
Yeah.
And
But they know
account.
they know the medical benefits to it. So it's not the money. They're just trying to stop the medical benefits for the pharmaceuticals to reap the benefits. So
Yeah, they want pharmaceutical to run it. So, given one of the treatments that we do that is really not known is IV treatment with CBD. Okay. It's been around for about 3 years, surprisingly. Recently, over the last 2 years, there is a particular company that offers it that has a patent on it or patent pending, right? And the patent is for the filter. It's supposed to be it's pico, which is even smaller when we're talking about molecule size, right? Nano is supposed to be the most known, the smallest molecule. Well, this is pico, which is even smaller molecules. So when we talk about that in significance to absorbing in our body, right, we're able to put the CBD and have it absorbed at a micro level. The crazy thing is when I signed up with this company, I was already doing CBD drips through a different company. They were not aware that there was another company out there. So when I signed up and they're like, your website already has this on there. I said, I'm already doing it. I do the injections. They didn't know that this had been done before. They thought that they were the only one doing it. So it's very interesting to watch the process of this company and watch that their patent is still pending, probably due to these other issues that they thought that they were the first and they were not. And so this is a market that is not talked about. People don't know about it, the benefits of it. On top of that, it's even harder in regards to physician regulation, getting people to be on board because, physicians, they are trained as analytical and objective, right? And I can't always quantify things in the cannabis world. And they don't grasp that.
Oh, wow. So you guys definitely are blowing my mind here. So I love this. Cola, you have anything you wanna
I am just listening, and I have a lot of things going on in my mind. I'm thinking about a lot of different angles because I'm in the medical industry too. So, and I am familiar with what the pharmaceutical industry is about as well. And also being familiar with the pharmaceutical company and other supposedly drug agents that are out on the market. I question everything. So I don't have enough. I mean, as far as CBD is concerned, definitely know that it's a antispasmodic. Definitely know it's an anti-inflammatory. So I know its properties and benefits in that way, but I know it's not the cure-all, be-all. And I know when you start talking about this alternative type of treatment, a lot of people will jump on the bandwagon as though it's it's the cure-all for everything. And so when discussing information like this, I like to know the pros and the cons, which is a proper research, not just all the benefits, but all the cons as well. You can't, when you're doing a study like this, or when it comes to anything, you can't just look for everything that supports your logic or support, is all that gives you all the yeses. You have to do a real non-biased research in order to get the truth. So you have to focus on all the cons as well. So and being in our industry, we're almost like little scientists because in school we had to we had to look at a lot of research and get it from a lot of reputable sources and make sure we have our big bibliographies, and you know what I mean. We had to do really thorough research when it comes to pharmaceuticals. So with that being said, yeah, I'm not I only know the foundation that I know, and I do know how it works. But my research in this and working with this, I don't have that type of experience, but I do. I know the money that's involved, and I know the marketing that's involved. I know the hype that can be involved, but at the same time, it does serve a purpose as well, especially medicinally. It definitely does.
So
Yeah.
what I hate about this industry, and I'm just going to put it out there, is that the money is not in the medical side. So let me say that again. The money in this industry is not on the medical side, unfortunately. So again, it ties hands when trying to build and to grow and to get the word out. The other thing is when you were talking about research and articles, I've been researching the cannabis plant for over 12 years now. That bio is a little old. I've actually created my own courses with contact hours in regards to this cannabis plant, the benefits, the uses, the side effects. And we don't know that cannabis as a is actually a nursing specialty that was just recently recognized by the ANA as an actual specialty. In order for it to be that specialty, you have to be knowledgeable in the 6 principal areas of cannabis nursing, just like we have to be responsible and knowledgeable about any other medicine that we give. So you need to know the history. You need to know the endocannabinoid system, which, you know, they lied to us talking about homeostasis, right? And these things are starting to be incorporated into nursing programs now. Endocannabinoid system. You have to be knowledgeable about interventions and therapies, the different forms, just like any other medicine, topical, sublingual, injectable now, smokables, all of these different forms. You also have to be knowledgeable about therapeutic uses and indications. And a lot of people are not. And a lot of people, again, the dispensary is not focused on the medical patient. They're focused on.
That's what I was going to say. All that you just mentioned that's the basis for every medication.
Yeah.
Everything that you just mentioned is the basis for every medication, but a dispensary is not focused on that end of it.
It's not. And that's why we're needed in this industry even more. And that's why I work so hard on the back end with education. Patients walk into those dispensaries and they're overwhelmed. They want to give them edibles. They don't know that side. They don't know how to guide a patient into this. That's why I'm real big on integrative health. If you notice, I say integrative. That does not mean that I'm all holistic. That does not mean I'm all Western. It is about combining these things.
Right.
And we can break this down and not even talk about cannabis. But say, for instance, my new diabetic patients that I'm taking care of, I've been a critical care nurse for 17 years. So chronic medical conditions are killing us. And so I always ask, does your doctor ever talk to you about anything besides starting you on medication? Are they talking to you about dietary modifications? Are they talking to you about what you can do? Do they talk to you about weaning you off?
Wow. And so someone added it in the chat. When living overseas years ago, the real marijuana plant was used only for the elders that had illnesses. The seeds used here are not the same. You smile. Have you heard anything like that?
Well, I'm a trust on that. The seeds here are, you got first the basic marijuana plant is that. What they sell now in the dispensaries are like hydro weeds that the seeds have been modified for potency. And potency in the THC side, not potency in the CBD side. Exactly. It's an industry now. And so go ahead.
I was going to add to that, and the chemical makeup of that is not regulated.
Right, because it's a plant. They can't regulate a plant because it grows from the ground. So, but it's known that
you really
these super weeds are in the dispensary side are focused more on financial side and the THC side, the hallucinogenic side that gets you high. That's what the dispensaries now focus on. The CBD side of it is medical. It's proven. Nothing is proven to cure. It's proven to treat.
Right.
And it's a better treatment than the medical side with less side effects. The cannabis side of it also haven't been tested long enough for them to find any negative effects from it. But
Oh, go ahead.
the research they have done, there is no medical negative side effects from it, except for if you smoke it. And if you smoke it, anything you burn turns into a carcinogen. So of course that's bad for the lungs.
Yeah.
But I will add, and I'm gonna throw a bone in there for my daughter. The hemp side of it is the CBD side of it is so helpful. It's now being used for animals.
Oh,
So
yes.
at our business at poochpastries.org, most of our dog treats, everybody requests CBD infused treats for the dogs as well, because it's a fact that it eliminates and cures and reduces, like say, inflammation and stuff in all living species. That's how good it is.
Yeah. Now,
one of the things, real quick, piggyback off of one of the issues with the research in the industry is that the research is, you really can't validate it, because what they're doing is they're taking the cannabis plant that they're growing in the lab in the university and doing this research on it and then putting it out there, and it's not a real reflection of what's out here. You know, there is testing, you know, that we're doing. So you can test and see what's in it. The thing is, people don't know about the testing. So first of all, they don't know to ask for it. And if they do know to ask for it, they don't know what they're looking at. Another reason why I had to come up with my own, I never thought in a million years I was going to be making my products. That was never the goal. I wanted products because I would educate, and then patients are like, okay, where can I get the products from? I couldn't trust my sources. And so I began to make my own products. I actually, because I wanted custom formulation, so I began to reach out like, I want a product with A, B, and C. Oh, yeah, we could do that for you, but you need to order 10,000. So hands were tied. I don't like my hands being tied. I said, you know what? Let me just order these things individually. So I learned how to found a grower. I learned how to order terpenes. I order my different properties of the plant, and I became a chemist, right? A formulary, and began to just make products. And I mean, let me tell you how crazy it got. I had a nurse friend of mine whose son has psoriasis, and she's real big in anandamide. She's a doctoral nurse, loves the anandamide, talking about how it works with our ECS system. And so she's real big on cannabis. And she said, you know, we've done this research. CBG, which is another part of the plant, its superpower is anti-inflammatory properties in the skin. Right. And so we came together, and she was like, you think you can make some type of rub to help my son? He's going off to college and he scratches a lot of psoriasis. I said, okay, you know, did my research, got in the lab, and we came up with this lotion that helped her son so much. She would buy it by bulk, and she said he can't run out because he no longer had flares, you know, scratched when he was away at college. So it is that those minute details that matter with your products. I was having a conversation with Tammi, you know, terpene management is more important than the levels of THC and CBD. But no one talks about that because they don't know. We're a specialty now, but they still haven't approved any training. Again, I could talk about the back end of this industry because they still want to tie our hands. They want to make it look like, oh, we're moving the bar, but they're really not moving the bar. They're tying your hands on the back end.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because what you're saying is, like you said, you really couldn't trust your sources. So you had to become the chemist. So this is, so when we're talking about it, that part needs to be known as well. The public should be educated on that, you know, that you really have to be, you have to know your sources. You have to know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because again, this is an industry where it's really, it's unregulated in terms of chemical makeup. And so you really do have to know your sources. So while it does do A, B, C, and D, and I mean, we've seen it. It stops some people from having seizures completely, not just lessen seizures, but completely stop them. Mm-hmm. So definitely there are medicinal benefits from it. But when we talk about, when we look at the stores and the shops and things of that nature that's selling it, it becomes an area then in which you can pretty much, you know, we're talking about profits.
Yeah.
So do you really? So will some people? It becomes a wide open area where people can actually abuse it, opposed to use it in the best way possible. So I think those weren't the pros and what you need to look out for. You know, when you're looking for medicinal help, that needs to be out there too. People need to, and so you, Sierra, with you being educated on this the way that you are, teaching people what to look for, what not to look for, and how they should be looking is wonderful.
Yes.
It's absolutely wonderful. Yeah. Education in that area as well.
Yeah. That's exactly why I wanted her on here, because I was like, we need someone that has done the research, that's tested it. In fact, she shared with me a while back. Her father had hip surgery. Was it
bilateral hip surgeries, 2 months apart.
And so go ahead and continue the story for me. Go ahead and share it.
My dad had bilateral hip surgeries 2 months apart. And I actually created and made a pain balm based on him. So we had no narcotic usage after surgery, in between surgeries, and for the next surgery.
That right there is absolutely beautiful. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Were you done?
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
And so this right here is great, because we have unfortunately, a lot of people who have different types of surgeries. They may leave the hospital being an addict to opioids.
And they don't want it these days. You'd be surprised I can't always post these things, but I get a lot of the post-op girlies. I make post-op pain boxes because they don't want to go through narcotics.
Right.
And again, cannabis has such a bad name. People feel like, oh, if it makes me high, it's bad. Well, morphine make you high. Other medicines make you high. So that property doesn't mean that it's bad. Right. The beautiful thing that I can say about cannabis is you can do research down to the dog. No one ever died from a cannabis overdose. It is impossible. You have to consume something like 15,000 pounds in 15 minutes. It is impossible to die from it. Even the World Health Organization labeled that cannabis is safer than any other medicine you will ever take. So that's why, from my perspective, I don't understand why, even if it is not frontline, it's safe. So why not allow people to try it, to use it? It's safe.
Now, see, this is where I'm going to come in. My thing is, I'm siding with medicinal use only. All the recreation stuff, for me, as a medical professional, that's something that I'm one of those nurses that for recreational uses, I'm not in support of that. But for medicinal purposes, I am. Because
I support it either way, because whether you use it for recreational or medicinal, you get the same benefits.
Well,
not saying I'm for the recreational promotion of products, because that taints the industry. What I'm saying is it would be just the normality needs to come, that just how people sit down and have a glass of wine or go out and have an alcoholic beverage, cannabis is in the same realm. It's no different. It's just our stigma.
Well, it's not for me. For me, it's not a stigma. For me, when some people now this is only for recreational use. Only for recreational use for a healthy-bodied and healthy-minded person.
So 9 times out of 10, people are self-medicating, though. They just don't know it.
See, again.
And I'm going to tell you, Cola, the industry. Go ahead.
I think there's a lag.
Let me finish my point. So for me, and that even comes to alcohol too, because our country suffers from addiction on such a high scale that for a lot of people who have addictive personalities, we're nurses. So we've dealt with a lot of psych patients as well. We've dealt with a lot of people who have the inability to cope with the ups and downs in life. So for me, when I see an individual who's weak with coping skills, an individual who may have addictive personalities, whether it's addicted to food, sex, cell phone, whatever the case. When we start talking about recreational use, now I don't know if we're talking about, I don't know if we're focusing on medicinal, recreation, or everything when it comes to this in this show's conversation. But
particularly, it was just awareness. You know, there is a medical side to cannabis.
Yeah.
I don't shame the recreational side, though.
It's not a
But
shame.
this is here.
It's not a shame. It's an awareness of what some people could potentially be opening up the door to. So it's not a shame at all. It's not a shame of, you know, someone who may have a high salty diet, or someone who may have, you know, may like to just to consume alcohol. There's no shame. It's the potential dangers for particular people and for younger people who whose brains are still developing. When we talk about that for recreational purposes. Medicinal, it has its purpose, yes. But for me, for certain people who have, again, those type of addictive personalities, or those people who may be using this substance prematurely for recreational purposes, I certainly see it as being a danger. I used to be a weed smoker.
What's the danger, though?
Addiction.
I'm going to answer that because I want to say this.
Go ahead, Shelley. But let's pause and finish it.
When you speak of addiction, you know, like she said, you said, Cola, you could be addicted to anything. Everything is addictive if you overuse it. Marijuana, the reason why people don't focus more on addiction, because unlike medicine addiction cuts and kills body organs. It shuts down kidneys, shuts down livers. It destroys body organs. That's why the medical stuff is highly regulated and stuff. The marijuana side of it, the addiction definitely is bad. And someone who can't handle it, it does. We know it promotes laziness. We know it brings down enthusiasm. That's a fact. But
that's because of the wrong type of cannabis too, though.
Right. There's no type of marijuana. What she was saying is there's no marijuana usage that kills the body. No marijuana kills the body. And even how they put medical and recreation, different types of marijuanas, they're the exact same. When we grew the same plant. Only thing the state came and tested was who had the highest THC. The highest THC went to the medical side. It didn't go to the recreational side.
It doesn't even need to be on the medical side.
Exactly. But that's marijuana, which the THC. With her and the CBD, that's a whole different animal, and there are no negative side effects to CBD.
Exactly. And so I know that there are no negative side effects to CBD. I know that. Check that box. Okay. And then as far as using it for medical purposes, wonderful, because it does have less side effects than the narcotics that the doctors are ordering for patients. So let's check that box. So I get that it serves a purpose. Right. And I can't knock that side of it. And I'm not trying to knock that side of it. In fact, I'm in favor of that. So that's not a conversation that I'm having. The conversation that I'm having is using cannabis for recreational purposes.
But what's the conversation? Because if you use it for recreation and it's and you're able to handle it, it's just like eating cereal. You can't eat too much cereal. So that it's a personal regulation. It's not a general regulation because it affects everybody individually. So you can't look at it as a recreation and classify it as general because everyone is affected differently by it.
So this is
the negative side effect would solely be based on the individual, and it wouldn't be a physical or health side effect. It'd be what side effect is this having in your personal life.
So this is my stance on it. I feel like it should only be used for medical purposes. That's how I feel about it. And I feel that way about it because, like I said, it's too slippery of a slope for a lot of people.
Do you feel that way about liquor?
Let me finish. Cannabis to me is too, and not just to me, but even based on research, I've been not only have I worked in critical care nursing, PACU nursing. I've also been Goodness gracious. Gosh. Goodness. I am having a mind fart. Darn, what do you when you go into rehab, but you're not in rehab just yet? I'm sorry, y'all.
Like case management type of thing.
I'm not pleading my case well, but I've also been a prison nurse where I've had to work with all type of dual diagnoses, dealing with those who are addicts and dealing with psychosis at the same time. And goodness, 24-hour, not rehabilitation, but when you go into
like an admissions nurse.
No. Look, you would think my brain cells are
Okay,
gone.
so hold on. Why you think of that? Let me say this. So, because the chat has a couple comments. One, it says Tylenol is worse for you than a daily blunt. Then it's added.
That is not
true, though.
not
No,
true.
that's very true. It's very true.
Okay.
It's nothing wrong with it unless you smoke it. And then it's not the cannabis, it's the smoke that's bad.
Number one is going to depend on the milligram of the Tylenol. So first, let's get that. So we can't
But if you took it every single day,
we cannot make. And if you smoked a blunt
every single
nothing happened.
day, you're gonna destroy
That's
brain.
the fact that Tylenol, the medicine,
cannabis
and
does
it
not
shuts
destroy
down the
brain
liver.
cells. So that is a big misconception. What you just said, and you said it twice. Cannabis does not destroy brain cells; it actually restores our cells.
Wait. See,
smoke.
But when we're talking about cannabis with high levels of THC, that destroys brain cells.
It does not destroy brain cells.
I don't see.
It does not.
I promise you.
There's no research. It does not destroy brain cells.
The research that I'm talking
about. The carcinogen, when it burns, destroys brain cells.
The carcinogen. Oh, you're right. The carcinogen, when it burns, and the high levels of THC as well. It affects the neurons in your brain. Anybody right now, look it up. Make sure your resources are reputable resources.
Well, I have an 8-hour course with reputable resources, and there's not a single resource that has ever said cannabis destroys brain cells.
Go to Mayo Clinic. That's a reputable source. And I'm just saying this off the top of my dome. Anybody out there right now, go to Mayo Clinic.
Did you open up the article and check the base of the study?
I'm not touching nothing, but off the top of my dome, that's a reputable.
And I'm gonna say everything destroys your brain cells.
That is not true. Everything don't destroy your brain cells. If that was the case, we would all be walking around here with some type of mental deformity.
You make so many, it's almost impossible to destroy them. You make so many, you only destroy the weak ones.
That is not true.
And Alzheimer's and dementia, it reverses.
Listen, I've worked in drug rehab detox. I've been a detox. I've worked in rehabs. I get to read people's charts from the very beginning to the very end. If you haven't in a drug rehab, if you haven't worked as a detox nurse, if you haven't dealt with individuals with dual diagnoses, dealing with drugs and mental issues at the same time, you don't know.
It's a very slippery slope.
And marijuana are two different things.
It's easy for an outsider to sit back and say, well, I smoke every day. This don't happen. You don't have the research. You don't have the experience, and you don't have all that you have is the personal history that you've experienced or that you may have seen in somebody else. You don't have the knowledge. You don't have the research. You have not been in the medical environments to even see it. So you don't know.
I have, though.
Well, if you have, then you
over 200 clients. So I'm glad that you said mental health, the dual diagnosis, because I'm so glad that you highlighted it. It is one of the most complicated to manage. That's why I'm currently in school for my psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner degree, because people don't know how to manage those clients who are cannabis users. Cannabis, there's a fine line with terpenes, and particularly I tell all of my clients who have mental health issues, stay away from purple terpenes. But see, these are conversations that are not had. Purple terpenes actually can tip them over into psychotic episodes, paranoia, things of that nature.
every day. I'm in
But
contact
it's certain parts. So I always say it's not cannabis, it's it's the type. We can't put it all in
And
one
you're not
bucket.
in touch with weed addicts, you're in touch with drug addicts.
There you go. So there are different types that you can smoke that will throw you in a psychotic episode. I, as a detox nurse, I, as a detox who has experience in being a detox nurse and treating patients who are in detox, get to test their blood, test their urine, read their charts, who work with the doctors in the office of the detox building. You as a nurse, you work side by side with those doctors. You carry out the orders. You bounce ideas back and forth with the doctors about the best ways to treat those types of patients. So when we have discussions and when we have meetings and roundtable discussions about the patients, we always, most of the time, if we have found that in their system, most of the time there is a connection with the mental psychosis that they're experiencing at that moment.
Yeah, and unfortunately, doctors are not knowledgeable in cannabis.
And doctors, that you guys only prescribe medicine and like for drugs, for man-made drugs.
Say that, but post up the research that it doesn't kill brain cells.
It doesn't kill brain cells.
Okay, so hold on. Let me
agree to disagree though. I'm
let's agree to disagree here. So let's read some. Let me read because
let me say that, Sierra, I'm sorry if I seem passionate about.
No, because I'm just as passionate, so I get it.
I don't want to step on your toes, but I work in the field. This is something that I see, and if you haven't worked there, and and this is not just for you, Sierra, because you're in the field too, but for anybody who just sit back and say, talk about it, you don't know. You don't know. And it's easy for you to say it because this person is doing it or the industry is doing that and yada, 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 but you don't know.
But in those type of environments, it's really hard to even do any type of research because it's not cannabis isolated. So that's another layer.
And that is another layer, and you're exactly right. But okay, so that one being my point is that it directly throws some people into a psychosis state. And you just said it's a particular type.
It's a particular terpene. It's a terpene. So we're not talking about, this has nothing to do with THC levels. This has nothing to do with how much CBD, This is talking about terpenes, which is one of the three parts of the cannabis plant. You got cannabinoids, you got terpenes, and you got flavonoids. People don't know this back end, right?
And so that's why the education is very important. So
exactly. And that's what it comes down to. How do we fix this? How do we bridge this gap? Proper education. Because I can tell you 95% of physicians are not educated. That's why when people come in with cannabis hyperemesis syndrome, which is not caused from cannabis, it's caused from what it's grown by, but that's a whole different conversation that we can have on a whole different day. They don't know that the treatment for that is CBD. They don't know that.
Right. And so on another note too, and then when we're just talking about the whole mental period, and when we're talking about the whole mental aspect of it period, and then we're talking about people with addictive personalities, this is, to me, recreational marijuana use for a lot of people, and for people who, especially if they're under 18, if they're 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and they get caught up in smoking this, and like you said, the body responds to this.
Yeah, but the body also dumps any overage. We don't store. So that's the safety net behind cannabis.
This is my point with the THC, especially high levels of THC. It opens up the doors for addiction, period.
But anything can.
Okay, you're right. Anything can. But
so I don't think we should isolate cannabis as old, because if that's the case, we need to pull everything that's possible addiction off of the shelf.
No, to you. To me, I've seen a lot of people go deeper into drugs because of the story. For most charts that I read is not that they started with crack, not that they started with heroin, not that they started with Dilaudid. It's that they started smoking marijuana at a very young age. So,
okay, hold on. Let me say this real quick, because what you just said, somebody actually put in the chat, and I'm sorry, but I'm gonna say it. They say she sounds like the old folks with the gateway drug BS. That's what somebody put in the chat. So
can I
and it is a whole agenda.
Listen, I'm gonna say this, and this is facts.
Yes.
The
ain't old folks, is wisdom, because
it's made up. Cannabis is not the gateway drug.
It is a gateway drug for some people. I've seen it and I dealt with it and I treat it. It is a gateway.
Listen, everything.
It might not be the gateway for all people. It wasn't a gateway for me. It wasn't a gateway for me. It wasn't a gateway for my friends, but for a lot of people, it was the gateway drug. I read the charts on a regular basis. It is definitely a gateway for a lot of people who smoke. They like the high. They like the zonked out feel of it. They like upon first puff when it hits the brain. And it hits those endorphins. Some people actually love that, and some people love it, and once they smoke, once you get in the habit of smoking it over and over and over, and then you start to use it as a coping mechanism, that's when it can turn into an addiction. So it opens doors for some people, and we can't say that it don't. I'm not saying
I'm gonna say this.
The gay.
I'm gonna say this.
And I'm not the old one. I'm the middle-aged one that knows that it's a gate opener because I work in the field.
Okay. All right. That's been established. Cola works in the field.
And not only that, but I'm gonna say this. One, everything's a gateway. One. Two, doctors practice medicine. They don't know medicine. They're only practicing. Three, they're there to prescribe a medicine, not to treat. But let me finish though what I was gonna say.
Come on.
Cannabis, the reason why it's getting a bad name now, or the addictive properties in the cannabis is sold in dispensaries, is because the original weed back in the 70s was a pure plant.
Right.
It had no negative, nothing, like Sierra said. It didn't do no harm to the body. The weed we grow now, not me, well, I don't work there no more. We put so many chemicals in the weed to get the color, to get the size, to get the smell. That's what the problem is. It's not the weed. It's not the THC. It's not the CBD. It's the chemicals we use to grow it, just like your fruits and vegetables. We put so much in there to get it to where people do get high and love it. That's why we grow it that way for the addiction, so the dispensary continue to have an industry. So it's not the THC, or it's not the weed. It's not how much THC is in it. It's I honestly could name 8 chemicals off the top of my head we put in weed that we sold. The same plant we sold to the medical and we sold to the recreational, because when the dispensary started, it was all medical. Then they opened it up for the recreation so that white folks could get richer off of it. And we sold the exact same weed to both centers. And that's why you don't hear about cigarettes no more, because weed is the new cigarette, not because of the weed, but because of all the chemicals. Like I said, I haven't grown in 8-9 years. I could still name 10 different chemicals that are labeled poison, do not drink, that we put in standard for marijuana. And so that's the addiction. That's the research we're talking about that causes the gateway and tears up the brain and kills the brain cells. It's not the weed.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is real. It exists. Thank you, Shelly. And I agree with you 100%. That's all I'm saying. You just broke it down with the extra additives and saying this is the reason why. But this is exactly what I'm saying.
But the additives are not in every product.
I know that. And so that's why, Sierra, people like you who are educating people about the makeup of it and the source, that's why this is very important. So, but let's not slide past the fact that it could be addictive for a lot of people. So let's not slide.
If they have addictive personalities, you have to work on that. I can't control. I would rather someone any day be addicted to cannabis over many other modalities. So again, removing that aspect, it causes no harm. Someone who's addicted to alcohol, at some point in time, I was a liver transplant nurse. They're going to end up on my list, right? There's all these other modalities that cause harm, but the cannabis itself, now we're not talking about the atoms, I'm talking about what it does and the research,
right,
will cause no harm.
Okay, so when you find just pure cannabis,
Say that again.
Where can you what?
Pure cannabis.
It's called, now it's labeled organic. You got to go get organic.
But
There's
it,
Or
organic.
I
You grow
teach
it organic
patients
too.
they can grow their own. You can grow your own.
Yeah.
it was just acknowledged that there is a high, right, that people get addicted to. See, this is what I'm saying.
I didn't acknowledge that, but I mean, I didn't acknowledge that.
And it was just acknowledged that
It's the exact same high from scrolling on the phone. It releases the same endorphins. So it's the exact same high from when you get a hug and it feels good. It's the exact same endorphins released.
That's that anandamide. That's that anandamide. So you gotta reach deeper, and you gotta reach deeper than this cannabis surface level. Let's look at our endocannabinoid system. Let's look at why our endorphins do. Let's look at why our bodies react to cannabis the way that they do. And once you learn that, then you, instead of saying, "Oh, you're addicted to cannabis," let's regulate this, because there are many reasons why you need it.
if you need it. If you need it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So hold on, because the chat is really going. I love it. So
that's my sales. I use cannabis as a multivitamin. CBD for me is like a vitamin. I went through COVID. It restored my cells. It protected my immune system. So again, I haven't even scratched the surface on all that it does, but it's so much more than symptom management. It puts our bodies back in homeostasis.
And I'm going to just say, and I just cut you off because it is a lapse. So Tammi, go ahead.
No, if you go ahead and say what you were going to say real quick.
No, I wasn't going to say nothing. The lapse is we all cutting each other off because of the delay in the internet. So go ahead, Tammi.
Okay, so and so I guess this has been in the chat for about 20 minutes now, but the conversation was so good I couldn't interrupt. Somebody put sugar is more addictive than cocaine.
However, you can compare and do all of that. The fact of the matter is that don't make it any better. Just because you can compare it with something that may have the same effect doesn't make it any better. It still has, with some people, it still carries them in a whole different direction. So I don't care what you compare it with. It still doesn't take away the fact that with some people, it leads them down a different path. It's not for everybody. No matter how you dice that.
Oh, so let me tell you this, Paula. Do you know that only 20% of the population use marijuana? So it's not as big as people think.
It's fine. I just don't want this to be looked at as a miracle drug. For some people, they need to be aware of the fact that, especially with addictive personalities, I read this every day. Like I said, don't start with just heroin. It starts.
Okay, but listen. The marijuana
with most people with drug addiction starts with most people with marijuana.
Right. But marijuana is, I don't want to use the word miracle. Marijuana is a wonderful drug, a healthy drug for humans. The side effects may not be healthy for everyone. So you can't blame marijuana for any of the negative side of it. You could only blame people's reaction to the natural endorphins from their high.
Okay, so
the THC and the CBD, if you didn't take weed, if you just took CBD by itself, there's nothing negative about it. Or THC, it only cures. Now, when you combine them together and smoke them, then it's a gateway, then it causes body damage, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you are correct about that.
And that's all I'm saying. So while you're saying, and at the same time, while you're saying marijuana is healthy, would you give it to your 11, 12, 13-year-old as a vitamin?
I'm gonna tell you this, yes. My daughter,
and guess what? My babies never caught COVID because there's a whole research study about how it did not cause the cytokine response when COVID hit the body. So again, as much as you say not you in general.
Hold on, let me answer a question. Let me answer your question. The CBD side, hold on. The CBD side of it.
Y'all talking? Okay, go ahead.
I want to answer the question. The CBD side of it. I'm gonna just answer your question. The CBD side of it, I have and do give it to my daughter because at age, maybe not 11, but 12, 13, because it took her almost completely off her inhaler. When she had the CBD, she did not, the asthma never bothered her.
Okay.
So yes, I did give it to her on a regular to control her asthma.
So you're talking about CBD. Are you talking about marijuana?
I'm saying, for me, it was all of it. I cooked it in the brownies and cookies, and she never, I grew the plant, which had all three, cooked it, and she never needed an inhaler.
So the reason that this industry is separated is because of the agenda behind it. So I have to talk about them separate because of how it is stimulated. But this shouldn't be separate. That's the problem. When they started separating and isolating these things, you take the safety away from the plant, right? When you start, I call it a designer weed, right? When you start making these, I call it designer weed, right? You take away the safety net, but a true plant is going to have all of that. And so even for my CBD, I do have pharmaceutical grade, what I call pharmaceutical grade CBD in my personal product line that is 0% THC. And the only reason I have a 0% THC product is because I have a lot of nurses, a lot of truckers, a lot of things of that, and they're worried about drug tests, right? But you do not want to isolate the plant. I want a product that has a little bit of everything. I need a little bit of THC in there. I need some CBG, some CBD, because the power comes when they can work together. So when it comes to the gummies that I made and gave my children, had all of the properties in it. It was part of our autoimmune regimen, just like they had their ginger shots and pineapple, they had their custom-made gummies to provide immunity.
Wow, I love that. I love that. Okay, so somebody put in the chat. I'm sorry, y'all. I got to jump in because that's why I invite them to be a part of the conversation, and they are a part tonight. So somebody said you can't partake in recreational alcohol and rebuke marijuana. And some of this stuff has been a little bit a while. So those doctors need detox they damn self half of the time, but that's a different topic.
Somebody just sitting behind a chair talking who don't know, just don't know.
Oh man!
All my doctors
in the hospital is an all-time high. That FDA step in and regulate because people are diverting narcotics because of addiction. So it's a huge thing on addiction. But it's so crazy on another level. We've used cannabis to get people off of more harsh drugs. So again, not saying that it is the golden standard, but it is out of any other drug out there. I'll take my chances with cannabis any day.
And Jesus grew it. Jesus grew it too.
He said, "Oh Lord, Shelly."
They did. They grew it for paper. They grew it for paper and for medical use.
I have a course when we talk about the history. So this is, again, these things are shunned. If you go back to 1940, the pharmacopoeia, right? Cannabis was in the pharmacopoeia. The reason it was taken out because of taxation. It was always a money thing. It was never a safety thing. They don't care about safety. Look at the medicines they approve. Look at Adderall. They don't care about safety. So let's remove that. They don't care about safety. They want the money.
100%. I agree. That's true.
They want the money. So about the conversations behind it, whatever. Oh, we don't know if it's safe and all that. Y'all don't care. Y'all, it would be legal right now if y'all could profit.
Regulated.
I agree.
And so Sierra, just so you know, your buddy Adwan is active in the chat. And for those, I'm going to give you guys a heads up. Adwan is going to be our next guest in January, helping us talk about hormones, and some probably going to piggyback off of some of this stuff. So she wanted to shout you out. And there was a comment that U.S. ranks last among 7 countries on health system performance measures, the Commonwealth Fund.
How many countries are there in the world?
But none of them have centralized medication and
Seven
healthcare.
countries.
So
And
out about 30 of them have centralized medicine. The rest are third world and foreign.
don't turn this into a situation where I'm in support of pharmaceutical. Don't twist it. Don't move the goalpost. Don't twist it. Listen to my words. Don't add and don't take away. It's a gateway for some people. It's a gateway for people within a particular age bracket. It just
We
is.
agree. We agree.
Okay, so don't move the goalposts. Don't add and don't take away. I'm not in support. I know what pharmaceutical companies are doing. Like I said, medicinally, yes. Recreationally, for particular age groups, absolutely not.
Okay.
It should be 21 and up anyway, unless you're 20. Recreational is 21 and up, unless we're talking about medical, and certain states do allow, certain medical conditions that qualify. So again, a deeper discussion. I could talk for 24 hours about this. There are actual medical marijuana programs. There are low THC programs in certain states that have certain diagnosis qualifiers, right? And again, it's all about regulation.
Yes, it is. It's all about.
Unfortunately, I've had clients. I'll give you a real sad story, or sad that turned into good, or good that turned. Well, I don't know. But I'm gonna give you this little story about this little girl. One of my very first patients I ever treated as a cannabis nurse consultant. She was a 9-year-old little girl who had genetic kidney and liver disorders, and at that time I was a liver girl. I came from the transplant world, liver, kidney, abdominal transplant, and so I had this little girl who had these issues, and she needed to get on the transplant list, but she was failure to thrive, right? Her parents sought me out from New York. Okay. We put the little girl on a regimen to gain weight with CBD products. At the time, I didn't even have my own brand. So again, when someone comes to me, it's not a blanket. This is the problem. This is not a blanket. Come to me. We talk about, we may look at some medical history and records, depends on how deep you want me to get and how much you want me to be involved. So came up with the whole regimen for this little girl. I even got my dietitian on board to increase her weight. Right. So we regulated. She had itching, she had psoriasis from all the toxins from the liver, just a whole thing. So we got this little girl all spiffed up in about a 3-month time frame. And she got on the transplant list. Guess what happened there's a selection committee meeting that they have where they decide, if they're going to say yay or nay to the transplant. And the parents were not shy, and the parents let them know. They're like, well, how did this happen so fast? Right. The parents let them know, they use CBD, and they said, oh, well, she can't be on the list if she's going to continue to use CBD. So it was heartbreaking, because you have this parent who's like, if it wasn't for this, she wouldn't even be healthy enough to be on this list. And now you're telling me, now that she's on this list, she'll have to stop, which in turn may make her too sick for transplant when it's her turn. Right. So these are the issues that I care about. We can have this, conversation about recreation, whatever. I think that's a personal choice and a personal vendetta. But when it comes down to access for patients and clients to get over these hurdles, and for people to say, oh, weed doesn't help with that, cannabis doesn't help with that, you don't have the right guidance or education, because I bet you that it can. And they don't have that access.
And Sierra, someone actually, before you even said that, put in the chat, I think when it comes to the recreational side, it becomes a matter of personal choice. And then they also added sugar is addictive, which we talked about a moment ago.
Yeah.
Wow. And so
that's why I advocate for it so hard. I've witnessed, again, this is real world evidence. We come from a world where articles and things are the hub, and this is how we guide our practice. I had to let all of that go walking into this holistic and cannabis world. I operate off of real world evidence. I've used cannabis to heal wounds. I've used it, y'all, toothaches, TMJ from facial products. So y'all, any article can miss me when we have real world evidence.
Okay, so let's not bleed that over into with the medical. You're absolutely right. It definitely serves a purpose. And we need nurses like you, Sierra, in medical. You're absolutely right. That is not you again, that let's not bleed this over into recreational use or anything like that.
Yeah.
With medical, you are 100% correct. I've seen it work miracles for people. And like I said, I much for surgical patients, for surgical patients, and for patients who are even coming off of really, really strong addictions in which they need something to help them cope. This is the preferred method for me. This is the preferred method. So it has a purpose, and it has a purpose in a particular space. And it has a purpose.
So, Cole, the sad part about this industry, and I didn't really get to tap into this, like I said I was, but it's the bias. So remember in the beginning, I said that the profits are not on the medical side, they're on the recreational side. So it has forced many businesses and things, unless you just heartfelt, unless you got money to just expand and blow, it has forced people to cross over to the recreational side because that's the only way you can make money.
That too.
And again, it's an agenda. It's an agenda. That's why we can't get insurances to cover anything on the holistic side, even though stuff is 2,000% cheaper, right? So, it's the hurdles of the industry that cause the recreational side to advance as much as it is because they didn't give access. So if you're not gonna give me access to this, then let me find a workaround.
Absolutely,
the workaround might not be good.
That's right.
But this is how they have forced
this
industry.
So
and
they created a problem. They created a problem.
They created it. They created this monster. And unless you're an advocate, again, like me, so many people are like, "Oh, you should just you should just get a distributor." I didn't go into this for that. I know that side, baby. I learned cannabis from the back end. I could smell some cannabis and tell you what terpenes is in it.
Wow.
I was the biased one. Bias is every nigga I know smoke weed. Excuse my friend. And when I was here, and let me tell you, my ex-husband is really one of the gateways. I had a patient introduce me to the medical side of cannabis. That's how I got started. But my ex-husband was a huge user in the beginning, and I used to think he was crazy. I'm like, why every 2 seconds you smoke it, right? That was on the recreational side, but I witnessed a medical property, even though he was a recreational user. I witnessed when he had real bad acid reflux, and I witnessed him in the middle of a projectile vomiting episode hit a blunt, and it stopped. So again, seeing the medical even inside of that, that's what got I'm like, what is this stuff? I had a liver transplant patient who transformed and got healed in front of my eyes. And I was getting ready to take him to the selection committee because he couldn't be on the transplant list. He said, go ahead and take me off the list, sis. I'm healthy. Yeah. And I saw the transformation. I said, I got to find more. What is this? What is this stuff? Luckily, I was in California, so I had access. Dr. Bonnie Goldstein. I had the access to find out more on the medical side of the world. The South is behind, baby.
And I agree too. I don't use it. I'm educated enough to know the health benefits of it, but like Cola said, the recreation side, I do see with my friends or even some of my kids, when they smoke recreation, everything's out the window. So I'm 100% against that part of it, and it should be regulated recreation-wise to those who can handle it. But who am I to? Who is anyone to decide what someone's recreation should be? If I could recreate to alcohol, if I could recreate to this, that, and the third, I should be able to recreate to whatever,
The issue with it is that it can become an issue in which we abuse it. Like the person who Mr. Sugar or Miss Sugar who's in the chat, we can abuse anything. When it becomes, we begin to abuse it, that's when it becomes a problem. But when it's used and applied in the right way, again, in medicinal ways, again, in the midst of, like you said, he was projectile vomiting. Although there's other things that are natural that can help that as well, like ginger, but there's other things that can help it as well.
Marijuana.
Yeah, CBD or CBD can help it too.
That was weed he was smoking. But again, but again, so learning them back then, I didn't know the medical side. Now I know. Oh, it relaxed the muscles in the GI tract to stop. It gets rid of nausea. Y'all, again, the industry is in its infancy in regards to the medical side.
Very much so.
There's so much to come if we can get past these hurdles. And so I will say that has been a personal struggle. I have been in the entrepreneur side of this world for 4 years now. I've been an advocate for about 7. And I get tired. I get tired of fighting to educate. I get tired of the regulations and basically hushing me. I've been shadow banned on social media outlets, things of that nature, just because I can't get the word out just to educate. It is very disheartening from someone when you witness someone with testicular cancer go and their tumor's gone, or someone who had breast cancer that you treated, and I can't even do these modalities because of a agenda.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so there's a question for you, Sierra. What all does CBD cover for it to be used? I'm sorry, because another question. What all does CBD cover for it to be used as a multivitamin?
Oh, so it really is dependent on personal preference, but in general, it provides overall wellness and balance. So restoration of my cells. I'm a night shift worker, so I don't get to sleep in my bed at night, and my body does not get that restoration process that is supposed to happen at night. CBD is known to restore us on a cellular level. So in that instance, that for me, that's the multivitamin. It builds immunity and protects my immune system. That is what it covers for me on the multivitamin side. But I use my personal energy blend that has certain energizing terpenes in it. So for me, it gives me energy to start my day as well.
But okay, could you reiterate that? What you add that gives you energy. What you add, it doesn't just.
It's a custom formulation. It's a CBD. It's a custom formulation with terpenes, certain terpenes that are in it. And this is all of my products. There are certain terpenes. And I was having this discussion with Tammi. The terpenes that are in my pain CBD are different from the ones in the energy, right? All of these things matter depending on what you're treating.
Yes.
It matters. So again, you walk into a dispensary, they hate to see me coming because I'm asking what the mother plant is. I'm asking all these questions that they can't even answer.
So that's the thing too. Like when we're talking about this, when you get detailed like that, it really, a lot of times when we're talking about it, and I think even during this conversation, we blanketed a whole lot of things. And this is an area in which we cannot blanket. We have to discuss in detail. Like you just mentioned, you're talking about for energy. This is what you put in this. This is a specialized formula that you made. So people should understand walking away from this that CBD doesn't blanket everything. It's the chemical makeup of it and what's put into it and the alterations of it. And there's special formulas like what you're talking about as far as the terpenes are concerned and the particular parts of the plant.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. So let me say this. So Sierra, before I ask the last question, someone jumped in, said, yes, we've been fighting this fight for years. So yeah, you definitely got support in that. And someone put, I think we're talking regulatory versus not. Street weed regulation can be sketchy. So I think this more like a
that's more black market. That's more black market. Mm-hmm.
Spoke on that about an hour ago. Yes.
And black market is a totally different industry as well. So
what could you tell us about synthetics? K2, do you know anything about any of that?
I do. For synthetics. So cannabinoids, they come from endogenous inside our bodies, exogenous, right? And that's either from a plant or synthetically made, right? So I'm not a big advocate of synthetic cannabinoids at all. they are unsafe. And the reason that synthetic cannabinoids are unsafe is because they've isolated them. So anything isolated, you take away the safety net. The safety net of the plant is all the properties working together. They balance each other. All of these things. So when we begin to isolate and say, okay, let's up this percentage of this and decrease this, when you begin to try to do that, you take away your safety net. I normally never have an isolated product. I had one product that was isolated. So when I say isolated, it means that nothing else is in that product but that. So CBD isolate. A lot of products out here are CBD isolate, and the issue with that is they don't work as well. So you have people like, oh, I tried CBD, it don't work. You probably had an isolate, and it's not going to work as well.
And synthetic means it was made in a laboratory, and it's probably 90% chemicals that are man-made chemicals. Yes. The CBD and that is natural. It's from the earth. It's made by nature. So that's the difference between synthetic and CBD. One's made in the laboratory with chemicals and man. The other one's made from nature, for nature, and by nature.
So an example of a synthetic cannabinoid is marinol.
Yeah, or like all that stuff, Molly, that's new stuff they got.
No, this is actually the only one that comes from the FDA that's been FDA approved is marinol, and it's synthetic.
And someone put in the chat, stay away from synthetics.
Absolutely.
Yeah, stay away from synthetics. And then also,
so based on our conversation, for the person that's seeking for something to ease their pain, and they may want a prescription, a cannabis prescription, but they can't get it, but they see that there is some synthetic at the gas station. Is that
never.
Is that okay?
Never buy CBD from a gas station, okay?
Right.
Never. I can't reiterate that. Never, please.
Never. Yeah.
The best thing that you can do, unless you find you and me or get an expert, you have to become informed. Just like you have to do as a patient out here in these streets. You have to become an informed buyer. I tell patients all the time, if you don't know, there's a lot of free resources out there. I would say connect with someone in the medical field. I do a lot of free trainings. I have stuff up that patients can kind of get these answers, but you got to know the questions to ask. You got to know what, ask to look at the lab. If it's been tested, then it is somewhat regulated, right? So these are certain things. And get some opinion about what you're treating. Hey, I have this. What will work? If you're a newbie, just like someone who is narcotic naive, you would not give a patient who's never had narcotics. You're not going to go and get 5 milligrams of Dilaudid. Right. Same way as a patient who has cannabis, who is new to cannabis, I'm not going to give them an edible, period. An edible has no breaks.
Okay, so some couple that want to say that, those gummy things, to one of my girlfriends, I guess she was given one and took a trip. And she slept like the first 2 days of her trip because she wasn't used to. I don't know, but hold on. Yeah, so you're right to that effect. And your girl Adwan said, or reach out to her for advice. And let me add, Adwan is on TikTok, and she puts a lot of content up for there. But let me go back. So somebody put Percocets and oxycodone is a gateway then too, I guess, based on something what you were saying. Absolutely. And they are regulated. And and I'll be honest, just like when you said when you start with a certain milligram, I remember my very first experience with Percocet. I think I had all 4 of my wisdom teeth taken out. And when I tell you, because I've never had it before, like I think what D4L Scotty's calling me. Yeah. I thank God I did not have to get up because and that's when I learned, honestly, and I think this was like in the 90s. That's when I learned how people get high off of certain prescription drugs, because I had some white girls that I worked with at the time. They like, do you still have some? And they only wanted to buy. They were willing to offer me more than I paid for the prescription for Percocet. So that's what I learned
it's a
back
whole
then.
for that. So again, it shows the effects that we don't know how people are going to respond. You ever had them patients in the hospital where you get them a narcotic and all of a sudden it's like they turn into the Tasmanian devil? We don't know how our bodies are going to respond to certain medications. And guess what? Cannabis is no different. It's a medicine. The only thing that's different is the safety net. But I don't know how your body's going to respond. That's why when I take my patients, we're going to start at a dose. I need you to check in with me. It is hardly ever the fact that it is cannabis, and it is always dose dependent. That's the difference. And less is best. Always in the cannabis world. We start low and we go slow. That's always been the regimen. And guess what? And you get to a level, we get you to whatever goal you're trying to achieve, and then we still titrate back down. So all of those things are very important.
So let me ask you, according to the chat, we're questioning in the chat. What do you look for when finding quality CBD?
Oh, excellent question. So you're going to look for what's called a COA, or certificate of analysis.
Oh, that's awesome.
When you are looking at any type of products, whether it's CBD or actual marijuana products, especially now, especially here in Georgia, they're regulating everything. You should, if you have to walk into a CBD store or a dispensary, they should have a COA. If they don't have a COA and you are not a expert in this field, do not consume that product. Okay. The other thing that you should be looking for is, okay, what other properties are in this? Not necessarily percentages, but is this just CBD by itself or all of these things? They should be testing for pesticides too. That's standard. I always tell patients, rule of thumb though, if they hand you a test, they're not going to hand you a test that has any illegal amounts of pesticides. Let me say that. Right. So if the product is approved and you have a certificate of analysis, know that the pesticide levels that are tested in it are safe, or 0%. Because that's what they're testing for. They're testing for pesticides. They're testing for the level of the different properties of the plant. So if it falls under CBD, it will have less than 0.3% of THC. That does not equivalent to milligrams. That is a percentage. So what's happening now is you got all this, you see this Delta 9 gummies out there. You see Delta 9 and people think it's actual. They're classifying it in the hemp industry because the percentage of THC is less than 0.3. This is the new technology, right? But it may be 10 milligrams of THC. Those are actually still going to give you some euphoric effect. A little bit. So I always say, look at the products, look at the source, nothing that appeals recreational. So you shouldn't be going and buying no battles that say Skittles, they got weed on the side of it. You shouldn't be buying products that mimic other products. Those are geared toward people who consume just to consume. They're not medically based. So this is a little bit
what we need to. Really good. This is the education that we need.
Oh yeah.
This is really good. And so when they have the certificate in the store, what exactly does that say? I mean, not what does it read? What does that prove? Does it prove
it proves that product was tested by a third-party lab? So someone that's not biased is tested by a third-party lab, and they're testing the different levels of these properties in the plant. Sometimes they test for terpenes. They're not required to test for terpenes. So if I have someone that is real cannabis sensitive, or we're looking for certain terpene properties, we may have to go search a little deeper, or I just use my own products in regards to specific terpenes. Because of course it's more money to test for those, but they're testing for the CBD, the THC. Sometimes they'll test for the other properties like CBDA, CBG, I'm drawing a blank, Delta 8, right? Things of that nature. Those are the things that they're testing for inside of that product, to let you know we've tested this product. These labels, the levels fall within the 2018 Hemp Farm Bill, which means that all hemp products are legal in all 50 states as long as they have less than 0.3% THC.
Can you repeat that again?
Sure. That COA is what qualifies them under the hemp law versus the marijuana law, right? The hemp law that was put out in 2018, the Hemp Farm Bill, states that CBD, I'm going to tell you what it states. All states aren't following this. It states that CBD and all properties from that plant are legal in all 50 states, as long as it qualifies under the 0.3% THC level.
Wow, that's good. That's good. So,
but some states have begun to put out their own regulation. Oh, we don't allow Delta 8 here. We don't do this. You can't smoke. You can't smoke it here. You can't eat it here. You can't drink it here. So this is the problem with the industry.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So the next question: how long do you have to take it for you to start realizing benefits?
Ooh, that's a good question. That is very person dependent. You know, I have people who put pain rub on and notice benefits in minutes, right? It depends on what you're treating and the form, just like any other medicine. If I give it, of course, topical, it has to absorb. If I'm putting it under my tongue and letting it absorb, it's going to work faster versus me eating it and it has to digest and it takes longer to absorb to the GI tract. So how you consume, that's why actually, even though I don't always promote smoking, depending on the client, smoking is one of the safest forms because, not safest, I'm sorry, one of the most forms that I can monitor, right? Because it has breaks. People notice the effects immediately and we can pause and say, okay, you've achieved what we're trying to achieve. I can't always do that with the gummy because once it's down, and we got to see what the ride is about, right? So those are the differences.
And I will interject. So I've been sampling the CBD external, the rub. Sierra has given, in which I need to get some more because I have arthritis in my kneecap. And so with taking that and stretching more, my knee is definitely feeling a lot better. So I am going to go on to be one of the witnesses that, yeah, it definitely externally helps. So
yeah, and that doesn't even absorb to the bloodstream. So it's a win-win for both sides.
Nice. Any more questions or comments? This is some really good information here. So, and you said there's more, so we are going to have you back excuse me, to dig in more. Shelly, were you about to say something?
No, I'm just listening and not making sure, but like if I can use making sure what she's saying is correct and it's all correct. Yeah.
And you know, Shelly, this was a little unknown fact about you that we just uncovered tonight, that you used to own a dispensary.
I told y'all I did everything.
Wow, that is so cool. And yeah, I didn't even know that. So this is good how these things come about. But Sierra, this conversation here was this was good. This was good. And I like, the detail of the education because, a lot of times people don't do their research and they just jump right in. And then when they find themselves like, it was mentioned earlier, addictive personalities or things like that, they blame something that might not necessarily be the cause. But, when you have people such as yourself to make people aware, this is good. This is good for the overall. So with that, I am going to start bringing this conversation to a close. And guys, like the research that, if you look it up, she even mentioned mood. The research mentions mood regulation. She even talked about Alzheimer's. I just learned last week of the term what was it called? A sundowner?
Sundowning.
I never, ever, 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 ever heard of that term until last week. And that's a term that affects Alzheimer's patients. So if there's any kind of anything that can help, this is what we need. And especially when I saw earlier in the chat, you know, the government really not going to try to help us. Or we even talked about it on the platform, and not to, you know, throw conspiracy theories out there, but let's just be real about it, you know? So this was good information. So I encourage anyone to do any research. Sierra, if the people want to reach out to you directly, can you give them the best way to contact you, whether you want to share your email, share your business number, please?
Sure. I will share my email. Oh, if you could drop it in the chat. You can find me on Facebook, Sierra Keaton. Just find my name. I'm public. You can always send me messages there. I actually have a private Facebook group as well. And our agenda for 2025 is just going to be bringing education down the pipeline. I'm coming heavy all year with education. And this is really geared toward us in the medical field, because we are the front line. Like I said, I've worked in multiple modalities in nursing, critical care is just the background, but from the community to, you know, IV, you know, infusion, all of these things. And the conversation, I'm like, God, do you just send me these patients? The conversation is always clients asking about it. And so it is so key that I am empowering my patients by providing them with proper education, not convincing them, but to properly educate them and to empower them to be an advocate in their own care. And so that is so important to me.
Awesome. And you know, as you were saying that, I was thinking of someone that told me not too long ago, like they have to, well, you could say medicinal or you could say recreation, but marijuana helps them sleep. Like it becomes their thing. And they found out when they start smoking a blunt a day, they're able to rest. And not encouraging that, so don't get me wrong, but you know, so everything, you know, some of the things that you're saying, I know from, you know, people around me. So
yeah, and the alternative that if you went to your doctor, they give you Ambien. So let's balance these two. So again, it's not about of course, they'll teach you how to consume properly, depending on if you got other hypertension, things of that nature. Smoking may not be best for you, right? But there are many ways to consume. So again, these are all things that kind of need to be talked about. And people just think that smoking is the one all be all, and it is not.
It's not. And you know what? Now, see, you just threw Ambien out there, girl. So for those who don't,
dangerous, especially for our elderly population.
Ooh, listen, I used to do Uber when I lived in Florida, and I remember this guy telling me one time he ended up in jail taking Ambien. Like I know somebody who's told me they've cooked a whole meal and didn't even know that they cooked it.
Yeah, it's very dangerous. It's a very dangerous drug. And to be honest, for an individual who's having sleep, before I do anything, I would find out why. Because it could be something that you could just treat naturally by way of meditation or just quieting yourself down for a couple of minutes before going to bed. There's different things that you can do if that's an issue.
Yeah. I might need some CBD to stay asleep, because I will wake up 1-2 o'clock in the morning and I'll be up and I don't fall back to sleep about when the time for the alarm to go off. I'll be like, why?
So calm the mind. Calm the mind.
Honey, it seems the more you try to go back, the more it's like, oh yeah, no, you're not going. So, but no, that was just me just throwing a little humor into the conversation. But this, like I said, very, 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 very good information. And so as we start wrapping this up, I am going to start tonight. Cola, any final words before we bring this home tonight?
Yeah, I think this was a wonderful conversation, and it did, you know, it got a little up there, but y'all know, listen, that's how I am. I'm passionate about a lot of things. So Sierra, I hope you didn't take anything personally. I thank you. I respect what you do. I love what you do, because the education should be put out there. There's a lot of things that I don't know about CBD. I don't work with it on a regular like you do. So it was very enlightening to hear about the different turpentines that you spoke about, and the cautions that people should take in regards to the different blends and things of that nature. So yeah, this was very enlightening and very informative. And so with that being said, I would like to say too that again, I still stand on my stance for recreational purposes within particular age groups. Yeah, because when we talk about this, it's not a blanket conversation. It's not a blanket conversation. So it must be talked about in detail so that we can receive the proper education, so that we can use it in the proper way instead of an abusive format.
Absolutely. All right. Great feedback. Mr. Shelley, who just let one of his little unknown hats out the bag tonight. Mr. Shelley, you have any final words for the lovely viewers?
I would just say that, especially when it comes to anything, everything's not for everyone. So no matter what it is you do, you need to do your research and check it out and get the information and educate yourself. I think that for Sierra, you're doing a wonderful thing. I think it's needed. Thank you for it. And yeah, that's it though. Just do your research, because everything's not for everyone. What's good for you isn't good for me, and vice versa. Everything has its pros, everything has its cons. So that's where the key, like I say, almost every episode, is education. Educate yourself on what it is you're about to partake in, so you won't be misled from someone else's story, because everybody tells the good about everything, but it's some bad with it, if it's not used properly, or it's used for the wrong thing, or you went in there and lied about what you needed it for, and then you're disappointed and you blame the source. So yeah, do your homework, and if it don't work, find something else.
That's good.
Wow. Now look, I'm going to give an unknown fact about me, and I've had people like, you are lying. So believe it or not, I've never ever smoked a blunt. I don't even know what it's like, and and I ain't gonna even lie. Not that I'm going to. I would love to now after this conversation, just to.
I think you are a real lightweight, Tammy. And we would have to do detailed research.
And don't smoke a blunt. Roll yours in some paper. It's the blunt. The blunt is what's bad and gets you to another level.
Yeah, it's the tobacco that actually carries the high. That's why a lot of people like to consume in a blunt, because they're actually addicted to the tobacco. But
tobacco.
See, education just keep coming forward. It just keep coming forward.
Tammi, listen. So, like, Tammy's looking for the thrill of it, but Tammi, if you've never smoked before, you need to be educated about what you're doing. We don't want to hear you running around Old National Highway butt naked.
But naked, one puff. That's
right. So Tammi, it's real. It's real. You can look at it as a thrill. You need Sierra to help you out with that, okay? So again, this is not a blanket conversation.
Not the weed man either. Sierra.
Yeah, Tammi, don't. This is not a blanket conversation. You need Sierra to help you out with that. Don't just go call a weed man and tell him you want a pound of weed.
No.
Yeah, you want some recreation.
Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. Look, y'all right.
Do yourself in. Get with Sierra. Let her help you.
Well, okay. So, CC, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. So, okay, so I did try the CBD oil. Let me tell y'all the mistake that I made, because at first she did give me some for my knee. We were gonna try the internal, not only for my knee, but also they helped me sleep. But what had happened was the one, I took a whole dropper, and I just told you I've never tried any of it before. Never tried THC. But anyways, so this particular night, it was a Friday night. I had just got in from hanging out with my girls and I was coughing. I said, well, you know what? Darn, I ain't got to get up tomorrow. I'm going to take some NyQuil. I forgot I took the CBD.
Wow.
So you was in a coma, huh?
Oh my God. Listen, y'all, listen, yes. I forgot I took the CBD when I took the NyQuil because I had been sitting around for a minute and then I was coughing. I was like, okay, I'm going to take some NyQuil and go to sleep. Man, I woke up in the middle of the night and I just tried to go to the bathroom and I was staggered to the bathroom. I was like, oh my God, what is going on? Then I lay back down. So at this point, I guess I must have snatched myself in the middle of whatever it was I was feeling. My whole body started tingling and it started getting numb. And I was like, I laid there. I was like, well, I'm going to try to sleep it off. And in my mind, I'm like, what did I do different? I'm asking myself, what did I do different? What did I do different? And finally, I'm like, hey, Google, what's the signs of a stroke?
This is what happens. This is what happens.
And so I'm laying there, and then the next thing you know, I'm listening, and it's talking about tingling and numbing and this and that. And so
I had a stroke.
Girl, I thought I was having a stroke. I called my son immediately. I think I'm having a stroke. And so my son, that's my baby. When I tell y'all my ride or die. Like he like I'm on my way. And so I'm calling the at this point, I'm calling the paramedics. I'm like, oh Lord, how they gonna get in here? Cause it's just me. I finally drag myself out the bed, crawl on the floor, get to the door to unlock the door. I'm on the phone with the lady. And once I finally remembered I took the CBD, the lady got off the phone with me. She's like, okay, they'll be it. So I said all that to say, definitely don't take it with NyQuil.
No, don't take it. Anything about that is, and I think NyQuil still has alcohol in it, right? So what you were experiencing was the bad mix of the alcohol. So all these things are important because if anyone else would be like, oh, you had some bad CBD. You had CBD that didn't even have no THC in it. 0%. Okay.
I couldn't move. When the lady made it here, she was like rubbing she's like, no, you're not having a stroke. She was like, I said, but I can't lift my body. I can't. Oh my God. It was an experience. But she was like, well, do you want to go to the hospital? I said, well, don't y'all have something to run it out my system? I acted a plumb fool. But one thing I can say, my blood pressure, they checked my blood pressure. It was normal. Sierra said that's probably because you had the CBD. But no, my blood pressure has been good. I told y'all I connect to the earth, so that keeps my blood pressure normal. But I shared that too. Just say I did, Cola, you talked about some of the side effects. That was one for me, but that's because I forgot. And had I remembered, I wouldn't have even called the paramedics but I panicked. It happens to the best of us. So,
and that's why terpenes are so dependent because you tried the energy blend before.
Yes.
And nothing.
Yes.
Right? No. The pain blend had heavier terpenes in there geared toward pain. So again, all of these little minute details matter. And please don't mix any cannabis with anything that is already altering.
Yeah, but my knee did feel better.
I'm sure it did.
Okay, so Sierra, before I let you give your final word, somebody put this conversation is about its benefits. I think it becomes skewed when we bring up the personal use of recreational use of marijuana. So, but yeah, we've kind of talked about that. So yeah, we agree. And so this is where we're gonna go ahead and
well, you can skew it if you want to. I am a recreational cannabis user.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure And again, this is why I advocate for, I use for recreation, but I get all the medicinal benefits of it, the domino effect. So again, even down to properties in the skin. So all my, they be like, how incorporated is CBD into your life? My facial products have CBD in them. My toner, my skin products, my bath bombs, right? My kids uses their CBD pain rub for their mosquito bites, right? It is a daily thing, but I mean, not a daily thing. It is a recreational thing for me. And this is why I'm not biased to it, because it would be no different than, I'm in a nurse world. How many nurses, get off work and the first thing they want to do is hit the bar? But I'm different because I don't want to hit the bar. I don't drink alcohol.
I don't either. I don't want to hit the bar
Right.
either. I don't want to hit the bar either.
But I'm looked at differently if I were to say, I don't want to drink, but I want to consume this cannabis. Right? They're gonna look at me differently, and it shouldn't be that way. That's the stigma that I'm talking about. Right? You're always gonna have all these other factors in it. There are people who can't consume alcohol because of their personalities, but I should not be stigmatized because of the recreation that I choose to use.
Nice.
That's it.
Nice. Love it. All. That's it. Any more final words after that? Okay. Well,
I mean, I have plenty of final words, but I'll say my final words in this is that, again, cannabis is not looked at as a medicine as much as it needs to be. And again, minus all of the ins and outs, the gray area, it is something that can be used to improve your health and your wellness. And these conversations need to be had at all the tables. As medicinals, it is our responsibility to inform patients and educate them. But how can we educate people when they don't even allow education at the top levels? It will trickle down. So I will forever advocate and fight for education in these arenas. When I first launched this business, it was a non-for-profit, and it was care with balance and dignity, removing the stigma. The stigma has to go. That's it.
I love it. I love it. And wow, we have someone viewing from Colorado. Nice. So you guys know all about the CBD out there. Yes. And so, this right here was awesome conversation. Sierra, I can't thank you enough for, your time, your knowledge, your wisdom. Cola, I can't thank you enough for your passion. You help bring things to the table. And one thing I've learned, it's good to not agree on everything.
It's definitely playing devil's advocate was key in this conversation, right? Because these are the questions and the things and the hurdles that people have. This is every day out there. They're going to ask these things they don't understand or whatever. All these things need to be addressed. So I don't take it as battling, right? It's playing devil's advocate because there's someone out there that's feeling that same way or has those same thoughts or those same questions, right?
Absolutely. And Sierra, I'm gonna I don't think we're connected on Facebook, so we're going to connect. So when I put this out, people can also reach out to you on Facebook as well, so that they can get more education. But you also offer other products and services. You go ahead, this real quick. Share things that you're doing, because I want people to support you, because I love what you're doing. So, and I want people to support you. So tell some of the other stuff you do.
We do cannabis nurse consultations. We have a cancer recovery program for clients who are currently going through chemo or experiencing difficulties in their journey through the healthcare system. Again, I'm owner of a CBD and wellness cannabinoid company, a custom formulated CBD and cannabinoid product company. We offer things from sexual health and wellness to weight loss, to pain management, to facial and skincare products. And last but not least, we do mobile concierge care as well. So IV hydration, CBD IV drips as well in that holistic realm. We do medical weight loss. Again, on a holistic form, we teach you how to heal the body, mind, body, soul, because they're all connected and they all have to experience a wellness. So.
Love it. Love it. So definitely, guys, reach out to Sierra for more. And I need to follow up with you about that toner because I've been looking for a toner. So we're going to have to talk about that. Oh, and my man Shelly, thank you for the value add. He's in New York, guys, and he's still with us, and I love it. And especially because we are going to be on vacation next week and the week after, because Wednesdays is our normal night, 7:30 Eastern. But next week will be Christmas. So in advance, Merry Christmas to you all. And Happy New Year. And we will be back on January 8th with actually a referral from Sierra. We're going to have Adwan, who was active in the chat earlier, and she's a nurse as well. And she has a story and some things to talk about to us. So I'm looking forward to that conversation as well. And also another special shout out to Cola, because tonight is Cola's hubby's birthday and she is still on with us. So Cola, I appreciate the sacrifice you made from my cousin brother, because that's who she's married to, my cousin brother. Y'all weren't here in the beginning. I actually performed their marriage ceremony. I'm gonna say it again. I opened with it. I'm gonna close with it. Yes, I was the performing officiant. So, but listen, as always, to my viewers, listeners, I hope you gained something from this session. That's what Real Talk is about. It's about opening consciousness, expanding, giving us mental health nuggets, because you know that's my passion. My whole thing is I want to help a world of broken people, hurt people, and just to empower, give knowledge that you can use and apply in your life. So that's what Real Talk is about. So I thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart. Remember, January 15th, we are going to have a virtual vision board party. Be on the lookout for more details on that. We did one earlier this year. It was awesome. And so I'm going to leave you guys with this closing quote. Holistic health emphasizes the connection of mind, body, and spirit. When one is out of balance, the others are affected. Recognizing this interconnectedness is the key to achieving optimal health.
Oh, I love that.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes. So I want you all to be healthy, be prosperous, be everything, the whole, complete. That's it, complete. Until the next time, be blessed. Have a great night.
Bye, ladies.
Okay, am I supposed to leave?